For your money, you can buy anything.
It's another day. The rich take money from the poor, dress them up in pink, make them all race for the cure. Drug companies have billions and want more. Got you running out to buy pink stuff from the store. Use the stories to play the emotional game, make you feel shame, all the heartache and pain. It's a scam. They use cancer patients' name, take the money as a donation to make game. The cure already exists, no myth, think about it. You and I will go without it. You can't believe what the news may say, but I doubt it. Got you blinded, your process is all clouded. Business as usual, money and wealth. Then your companies, they don't care about your health. Need you sick to make more dough for themselves, raking in the cash every time a new drug sells.
We got uppers, downers, antidepressants, drugs for seniors, and all kind of medicine. Psychotic drugs to suppress aggression. Even now drugs to relieve your stressing. Yes, we drug kids, I forgot to mention. In drug-free zones for hypertension or ADHD, whatever you call it. Legal drug kingpins, we always call. We got the FDA and the CDC. WHO, all talk disease.
Yeah.
Hand in hand with big drug companies, drugging up the whole world with these.
This is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs. Legalized, only different from the common street thugs. FDA approved, safe and secure. There's no bug side effects swept under the rug. Politicians in cahoots with the drug dealers. They getting paid to pass laws and cover up mistakes they made. They don't care if you end up hurt or in the grave. The results of the drugs they gave. Big money in the health system. They don't want to cure disease. Make medicine just to hold off the sneeze. They can cure the common cold if they want naturally, but they won't, cause it's all about greed indeed.
We got uppers, downers, antidepressants, drugs for seniors, and all kind of medicine. Psychotic drugs to suppress aggression. Even now drugs to relieve your stressing. Yes, we drug kids, I forgot to mention. In drug-free zones for hypertension or ADHD, whatever you call it. Legal drug kingpins, we always call. We got the FDA and the CDC. WHO, all talk disease. Hand in hand with big drug companies, drugging up the whole world with these.
The big pharmaceutical companies got us hooked since babies with all their vaccines and flu shots, whooping cough vaccinations, steady flow of money from the zombie patients. We get drugs, fluoride throughout our water, every day coming up with some new disorder. In order to prescribe a drug, a fake fix that holds back the things that makes our brain stick. They get rich, they don't prevent from getting sick. Drug sales is how they keep their pockets thick. Big pharma and the alphabet, drug kingpins, only ones in the end that wins. It's a sin.
We got uppers, downers, antidepressants, drugs for seniors, and all kind of medicine. Psychotic drugs to suppress aggression. Even now drugs to relieve your stressing. Yes, we drug kids, I forgot to mention. In drug-free zones for hypertension or ADHD, whatever you call it. Legal drug kingpins, we always call. We got the FDA and the CDC. WHO, all talk disease. Hand in hand with big drug companies, drugging up the whole world with these.
All right, it's Mayday, 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 and we're not the only ones apparently that had that title for a video. Somebody sent me one. I did not watch it, so you can't really ask me what it was about, but somebody sent me one today that was titled the same thing, Mayday, Mayday. So we have here Mr. NPC 3.14 to tell us exactly what Mayday, Mayday is all about. Welcome, sir.
Hello. Thank you all for being here. Shabbat Shalom. And so maybe they're just in tune with the same frequency that we are this evening. So we'll see. Maybe if you share that with me, I can compare the two topics. But yeah, we'll look into the military definition and the cultural definitions, and also a couple of other things that relate to the time we're in now. But without further delay, we can start with the Chabad.org. Oh, yeah. Oh, and did you have any announcements, by the way?
The only announcement that I have is I'm going to keep bugging you guys about this crypto trading platform, the COTPS, because on Wednesday I'm making a lot of money on this crypto. Actually, I'm making a lot of crypto currency, but I mean they're paying us in USDT, and they're not paying us. We're buying and selling and making profits like arbitrage, and I've explained that to you guys. If you don't know, go back and look at some of the videos I made, or email me, ladyliberty@countermail.com. But on Wednesday I had $12,594. $12,594. Today I have 15,493. No, 15,508. And that is after I've sent money I owe my dad back to him because he helped me with when the truck died and I got a new vehicle. And that's after helping other people open their accounts. That's after withdrawing $1,500 for myself for new tires and things like that. So just from Wednesday to today is almost $3,000. So if you haven't gotten started with this and you've been thinking you should, get started. Time is now. That's my only announcement.
The time is meow.
I should have thought of that. The time is meow.
Well, I'll go ahead and share this link. And again, Chabad.org is the site we use because it'll give you some Torah portions relevant for the day of the year. So as you can see, did it populate the screen?
I can see perfectly.
Okie doke. Oh, and is the chat visible? Because I noticed the last time we used a television filter deal, so like it kind of cut off some of the screen.
Hold on, I'm messing up. I'm in the wrong thing. Let me fix this. Yeah, the reason that happened is because oh my gosh, where am I? is because I zoomed in.
Oh, I see. So the filter itself wasn't the issue. It's just that the screen wasn't zoomed, or the screen was zoomed or something.
I had zoomed in, and so that's why you couldn't see the chat as much. But if you'd like, I can zoom out. I was just trying to help because people often are on their phones. So that's
I totally get it.
Doing that.
I just didn't know if there was something that I was doing wrong or different, or because I still liked the idea. It looked cool. I just didn't want people to be excluded there. Okay, so does it look okay, you think?
Yes, and I can still partially see the chat. But yeah, I can zoom out or in or whatever. Just leave it like it is too.
Can you do it on the fly? Because we could just zoom in maybe when they're reading or something, I guess. I don't know. Just use your own discretion.
Yeah, that's what I can do. I can absolutely zoom in sometimes and zoom out sometimes.
Okie-doke. If I tried to do that on my computer, it'd probably crash. So we start with Nissan 295782. I did learn something about the word Nissan, and it goes back to a Sumerian word, Nisanu, which translates to month of the first fruits. which I thought was pretty cool because this is the month we would have the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Passover, and First Fruits, which Christ was the fulfillment of the first fruits. So Nisanu does refer to that. And today we'll be observing the day 14 of the Omer count. That's Malkut Sheb Geruva. Tonight's the 15 count. And again, this culminates to Pentecost, which is 50 count. And so you'll notice this is day 14, but yet it's the 15 count. And that's because it is a 49 days plus 1 will give us the final 50 count that culminates around the time of the summer solstice. So that's where we get the Pentecost. All right. And I accidentally... Sorry, I did not click that on purpose. Okay, and so before we get into the Torah portions and Psalms, I'll read a little bit here from the Laws and Customs. Bless the new month. This Shabbat is Shabbat Mevrachim, the Shabbat that blesses the new month. A special blessing is recited, blessing the Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month, and the upcoming month of Liar, which falls on Sunday and Monday of the following week. Prior to the blessing, we announce the precise time of the Malad, the birth of the new moon. That's an interesting word, so let me throw that down in the chat there. The Malad. Well, it didn't let me copy it, so I'll just type it there. So it's the M-O-L-A-D. So referring to the birth. I think it would be an interesting study because Odin refers to birth pang, and then Malad is birth. So there's a couple words to look into. It is a Chabad custom to recite the entire book of Psalms before morning prayers and to conduct Farbrengens, known as a Hasidic gathering, in the course of the Shabbat. Can you imagine reading the entire book of Psalms before a certain time in the morning even? That's a lot of dedication. Of course, we read the Psalms in portions every week, and just what we get in a portion is a lot of times very insightful. So, yeah, that's something to strive toward. Speaking of which, tonight we'll be doing Psalms 140 through 144, hardly the entire Psalms. And here it continues with Ethics, chapter 1, in preparation for the festival of Shavuot, which again, it's Pentecost. We study one of the 6 chapters of the Talmud's Ethics of the Fathers, Avot, on the afternoon of each of the 6 Shabbatot between Passover and Shavuot. So again, that's 7 weeks. 7 times 7 is 49, plus the 1 is your 50, your Pentecost. Which was otherwise known as Feast of Weeks. Passover, this week being the first Shabbat after Passover, we study chapter 1 in many communities, and such is the Chabad custom. The study cycle is repeated through the summer until the Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah, which is actually the end of the year. That would be your Tishri, September month, when you find the time of judgment, tabernacles, and trumpets. The count, we have 15 days to the Omer tonight. Tomorrow is the 15th day of the Omer count, since on the Jewish calendar the day begins at nightfall of the previous evening. We count the Omer for tomorrow's date tonight. So again, the distinction between the two numbers up top is explained here. After nightfall, today is 15 days, which are 2 weeks and 1 day to the Omer. If you miss the count tonight, you can count the Omer all day tomorrow, but without the preceding blessing. The 49-day counting of the Omer retraces our ancestors' 7-week spiritual journey from the Exodus to Sinai. Sinai is where the law was given to them. Each evening, we recite a special blessing and count the days and weeks that have passed since the Omer. The 50th day is Shavuot, the festival celebrating the giving of the Torah at Sinai. So just like in the story of Pentecost, when the apostles received the Holy Spirit, that was a mirror of when the law had been given to the folks at Sinai. So another reason why I think the Old Testament's really wonderful, because a lot of times we see that it's a reflection. Old and New Testaments reflect one another. Tonight's Sephirah, Hesed, Sheb, Tiferet, kindness and harmony. The teachings of Kabbalah explain that there are 7 divine attributes, Sephirot, that God assumes through which to relate to our existence. The following are Hesed, Garuva, Tiferet, Netzach, Had, Yesod, and Makut. Love, strength, beauty, victory, splendor, foundation, and sovereignty. In the human being, created in the image of God, the 7 Sephiroth are mirrored in the 7 emotional attributes of the human soul: kindness, restraint, harmony, ambition, humility, connection, and receptiveness. If you go to Isaiah 11, it talks about the spirits, 7 spirits, 7-fold spirits of the Holy Spirit, and you'll see that this kind of jives with that. They also have a correspondence with the 7 lights of the menorah. Each of the 7 attributes contains an element of all 7: kindness in kindness, restraint in kindness, harmony in kindness, etc., making for a total of 49 traits. The 49-day Omer count is thus a 49-step process of self-refinement, with each day devoted to the rectification and perfection of the 49 Sephirot. So remember, it begins with the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is to have no yeast and be flat bread, right? And then after that, it's like you're getting rid of all the contaminants to start over and refine. So I kind of find it interesting that we begin with no leaven for 7 days. And then after that, they begin counting the Omer bread up to 50. So there's some mystery to be unlocked there. And be sure to share any of your insights in the Discord or the Telegram. If you do a study and you find something interesting, be sure to share it with us, please. All right, so won't be doing the daily thoughts because I don't always like those, but we will begin with our Psalms and Torah portion now. So I'll go ahead and close this tab. Are you occupied, Aaron? I didn't want to. I just wondered if you wanted to read is all.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, so we have a daily Tehillim, which are Psalms of praise. And again, today we'll be doing chapters 140 through 144. So let me go ahead and share that real quick. Thank you, Tree Mistress. I appreciate those kind words. Also, thank you for being here with us, John Sparks. And since I've been talking, I'll go ahead and let you begin, if you like, on chapter 140. And if you like, I could try zooming in.
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Ready for me? All right. Chapter 140 of the Psalms. David composed this psalm against his slanderers, especially the chief conspirator Doeg. Anyone confronted by slanderers should recite this psalm. Ooh, that's good. Verse 1. For the conductor, a psalm by David. Rescue me from the evil man. Protect me from the man of violence, who devise evil schemes in their heart. Every day they gather for wars. They sharpen their tongues like a serpent. The spider's venom is forever under their lips. Guard me, Lord, from the hands of the wicked. Protect me from the man of violence, those who plot to cause my steps to slip. Arrogant ones have hidden a snare for me and ropes. They spread a net by my path. They set traps for me continually. I said to the Lord, You are my God. Listen, O Lord, to the voice of my pleas. God, my Lord, the strength of my deliverance, you sheltered my head on the day of armed battle. Grant not, O Lord, the desires of the wicked. Fulfill not his scheme, and make it unattainable forever. As for the head of my besiegers, let the deceit of their own lips bury them. Let burning coals fall upon them. Let it cast them down into the fire, into deep pits, never to rise again. Let the slanderous man be established in the land. Let the evil of the man of violence trap him until he is overthrown. I know that the Lord will execute judgment for the poor, justice for the needy. Indeed, the righteous will extol your name. The upright will dwell in your presence.
I really like that one. That's a psalm for the haters, huh? I wasn't planning to read this until later, so I won't go into depth, but there was a part here that, where was it? Along the path, snares along the path. Here we go. Verse 6. Arrogant ones have hidden a snare for me and ropes. They spread a net by my path. They set traps for me continually. So later I was going to mention here in Genesis 49, which I'll go ahead and just share it now. Meow. The blessing on the tribes. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider fall backward. So very similar to that Torah portion there. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
And then also there's the Song of Moses that talks about how then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. So I just thought that was pretty cool. But that's what I like about the Psalms. You never know what's going to pop up in them. They cover a lot of ground and sometimes give interesting details and some added depth to other parts of the scripture. So now we'll read chapter 141. This psalm teaches an important lesson. One should pray for divine assistance, that his mouth not speak that which is not in his heart. The gatekeeper only allows the gate to be opened for a purpose. Let it be the same with one's lips. That's a very good admonishment. A psalm by David, O Lord. I have called you. Hasten to me. Listen to my voice when I call to you. Let my prayer be set forth as incense before you, the raising of my hands as an afternoon offering. O Lord, place a guard for my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Do not incline my heart to do a bad thing, to perform deeds and wickedness with men, doers of evil. Let me not partake of their delicacies. Verse 5, let the righteous one strike me with kindness, and let him rebuke me like the finest oil. Let my head not refuse it. For as long as I live, my prayer is to preserve me from their harm. For their judges have slipped because of their hearts of rock, though they have heard my words, and they were pleasant. As one who chops and splinters wood on the ground, so have our bones been scattered to the mouth of the grave. For to you, God, my Lord, are my eyes In you I take shelter. Do not pour out my soul. Protect me from the hands of the snare they laid for me, and from the traps of the evildoers. Let the wicked fall into their own nets together until I pass over. This right here is very powerful. Protect me from the hands of the snare they laid for me, and from the traps of the evildoers. Let the wicked fall into their own nets together until I pass over. So this word pass over, just like in the time of the first Exodus, the Hebrews and a mixed multitude were taken out of Egypt during the month of Nisanu, and they did pass over the Sea of Reeds, or the Red Sea, which is the word Eber. And some say that's where Hebrew comes from, is this word for passing over. But it also is the destroyer passed over their homes, and then they also passed over the Red Sea. So I find that interesting within the context of what we're seeing happen right now, right? Are we not seeing a grand snare coming upon the world today? And will they not be caught up in their own trap, their own nets together until we pass over? So remember, there is a second Exodus prophesied in Isaiah 11, and this is what a lot of people, I think, call the rapture. So something to consider there. Would you like to read 142?
Yes. Okay. Chapter 142. David composed this psalm while hiding from Saul in a cave, at which time he had cut off the corner of Saul's garment to prove that he was able to kill him, but did not wish to do so. He declared, "Where can I turn and where can I run? All I have is to cry out to you." Verse 1, a maskil by David when he was in the cave, a prayer. With my voice I will cry out to the Lord. With my voice I will call to the Lord in supplication. I will pour out my plea before him. I will declare my distress in his presence. When my spirit is faint within me, you know my path. In the way in which I walk, they have hidden a snare for me. Look to my right and see. There is none that will know me. Every escape is lost to me. No man cares for my soul. I cried out to you. O Lord, I said, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Listen to my song of prayer, for I have been brought very low. Deliver me from my pursuers, for they are too mighty for me. Release my soul from confinement, so that it may acknowledge your name. Because of me, the righteous will crown you, when you will deal graciously with me.
Another great song. They're all good. Kind of seeing a theme here. I had to cough. Was I able to mute
The
it?
haters. Yeah, I didn't hear you.
Okay, that was good. Yeah, allergies have been getting to me. So he's running from Saul, and that's what this one's about. But we see the theme again of the snare once more. I don't think they're talking about a drum.
Definitely not. Like the snare of a trap with teeth.
Yeah. And something about snares, you could just go set a snare up somewhere and it wouldn't work unless it's somewhere an animal frequents, right? So, the snare is along a path, as it describes in these Psalms. And that's because the animals, if you ever hike, you'll notice that a lot of times you'll see paths to the forest or to waterways and things like that. So, animals have these habits where they'll go through certain areas, and that's where you put the snare. So you don't just put one in the middle of a field somewhere where there aren't any animals frequently going by. You put it on a path that you find. And it's when they're on that path, when it's a day like any other, and that's when the snare is drawn. So that's why we shouldn't be comfortable in the time we're in now. People are always saying, oh, but people always thought it was the end days, right? Well, that's part of that being on the path, and the snare is that one day the snare is drawn. And, I think that we can all agree that what we're seeing happen today is very much similar to, everybody's going on the trail day by day, thinking nothing's wrong, and then, back in 2018, 2019, suddenly the snare is being drawn. So, and we're going to talk about that. That's kind of the topic of discussion tonight, is we'll be discussing that snare in more detail. So the Psalms mentioning this is actually kind of a coincidence, but it wouldn't be the first time that's happened when we're doing these types of things. So praise to the Spirit. Psalm 143. Oh, and there was a footnote there. The Maskil, I think it was called. Yeah. That is a psalm intended to enlighten and impart knowledge. So that means that the purpose of this was to communicate to us wisdom, some type of knowledge, or perhaps a warning. So we should really pay attention to these things when we're told that. Psalm 143, a psalm by David. O Lord, hear my prayer. Lend your ear to my supplications. With your faithfulness, answer me, and with your righteousness. Do not enter into judgment with your servant, for no living being would be vindicated before you. For the enemy has pursued my soul. He has crushed my life to the ground. He has set me down in dark places like those who are eternally dead. Then my spirit became faint within me. My heart was dismayed within me. I remembered the days of old. I meditated on all your deeds. I spoke of your handiwork. I spread out my hands to you. Like a languishing land, my soul yearns after you, Selah. After me soon, O Lord, my spirit is spent. Hide not your face from me, lest I become like those who descend into the pit. Let me hear your kindness in the morning, for I have trusted in you. Let me know the way in which I should walk, for to you I have lifted my soul. Deliver me from my enemies, O Lord. I have concealed my troubles from all save you. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. Let your good spirit lead me in an even path. For the sake of your name, O Lord, give me life in your righteousness. Take my soul out of distress. There it is. And in your kindness, cut off my enemies and obliterate all those who oppress my soul, for I am your servant. So here's that word distress. Well, today we'll be talking about Mayday, Mayday. And that is a distress call, right? So again, the path is brought up, only we're seeing a slight change here, an even path, right? And it talks about here being descended into the pit. So fruitless branches are hewn and thrown into the pit to burn. So, just another reference there to what he could be talking about there. Chapter 144 here.
I'm on it. All right. Chapter 144. After triumphing in all his wars, David composed this psalm in praise of God. Verse 1 by David. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for battle and my fingers for war, my source of kindness and my fortress, my high tower and my rescuer, my shield in whom I take refuge. It is he who makes my people submit to me. O Lord, what is man that you have recognized him, the son of a mortal that you are mindful of him? Man is like a breath, his days are like a passing shadow. O Lord, incline your heavens and descend. Touch the mountains and they will become vapor. Flash one bolt of lightning and you will scatter them. Send out your arrows and you will confound them. Stretch forth your hands from on high. Rescue me and deliver me out of many waters, from the hand of strangers, whose mouth speaks deceit, and whose right hand is a right hand of falsehood. God, I will sing a new song to you. I will play to you upon a harp of 10 strings. He who gives victory to kings, He will rescue David, his servant, from the evil sword. Rescue me and deliver me from the hand of strangers, whose mouth speaks deceit, and whose right hand is a right hand of falsehood. For our sons are like plants brought up to manliness in their youth. Our daughters are like cornerstones fashioned after the fashion of a palace. Our storehouses are full, overflowing with all manner of food. Our sheep increase by the thousands, growing by the tens of thousands in our open fields. Our leaders bear the heaviest burden. There is none who break through, nor is there bad report, nor outcry in our streets. Happy is the nation for whom this is so. Happy is the nation whose God is the Lord.
Amen. Of course, they're even trying to change that nowadays. Trying to remove "In God We Trust," off the money and stuff like that. So we're seeing how our nation's kind of descending into the pit, as it were. All right.
Destroyed little by not just our own government, but the governments of the world.
Death by 1,000 cuts, in a sense. All right, so I'll go ahead and share this link just one more time since we just finished reading the Tehillim. All right, and now we'll read the Torah portion. And this will be covering Leviticus chapter 18. Now, we don't read the commentary. However, if just for time's sake, because usually we're right up against 2 hours. But if you do find this interesting, please come back and read this on your own, and you might find it worthy. All right. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22, you shall not lie down with a male as with a woman. This is an abomination. And with no animal shall you cohabit to become defiled by it. And a woman shall not stand in front of an animal to cohabit with it. This is depravity. Verse 24, you shall not defile yourselves by any of these things, for the nations whom I am sending away from before you have defiled themselves with all these things. So in other words, he's saying we're always to be a unique people, not supposed to be like the nations and taking after their ways. And so he's referring to, hey, see the things that they do. I took you away from these folks. I don't want you doing the things that they do. In verse 25, and the land became defiled, and I visited its sin upon it, and the land vomited out its inhabitants. But as for you, you shall observe my statutes and my ordinances, and you shall not do like any of these abominations, neither the native nor the stranger who sojourns among you. For the people of the land who preceded you did all these abominations, and the land became defiled. That right there says it all. And let the land not vomit you out of it, out from having defiled it, as it vomited out the nation that preceded you. If you've ever wondered, well, how are we going to be given the kingdom, right? Well, it's kind of like this. The land will vomit them out, and we will inherit it, right? But only those who keep his ways, and not the ways that preceded. This is probably also why whenever they would conquer nations, they were not supposed to take garments, animals, those types of things, because it was a different practice, a different way they did things that was not in line with the ordinances that the Lord had set before them. Verse 28, and let the land not vomit you out for having defiled it, as it vomited out the nations that preceded you. For anyone who commits any of these abominations, the persons doing so shall be cut off from the midst of their people. And you shall observe my charge not to commit any of the abominable practices that were done before you, and you shall not become defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. I find the phrase "my charge" interesting because we're moving into the time of Taurus, right, which is the bull. And what are bulls known for? Charging, right? And whenever the Catholic Church makes a decree, for instance, it's called a papal bull. So we do see that this Torah portion is in line with that kind of theme as well. So another reason I really like this website is because we could read that any other time, but it maybe wouldn't be as pronounced and obvious. So sometimes we can catch those things right there. Pretty interesting. Because it's also talking about the ordinances of the Lord. And it looks like that's all the Torah portion for tonight, just that little piece right here. So, so just remember the charges, the ordinances, the laws, all very bull themed. And that's the meat that we're supposed to chew on and become strong men through our rumination on the word. It's not the milk of the gospel. That's the exception to the rule. But the rules do contain wisdom, so we should meditate on them, even if we don't understand them. And that's the whole point of the Omer count, is that leading up to Pentecost, they were going through this refinement process. And so it did seem very brutal, yes. But at the end of that were those who did inherit the land, right? And let's go to this next website. We have the volcanoes and quakes website here. So there were 2 quakes above magnitude 5 in the past 24 hours, 33 between 4 and 5, 121 between 3 and 4, 185 between 2 and 3, and 402 quakes below magnitude 2. And these are the type that you don't normally feel. So I just like to review these each week so that we can always keep an eye on the quakes. There haven't been any more in Israel. So if there are, I will be sure to share them. And we have looked back in the past and saw that there have been a lot of earthquakes in Israel, but only in one particular area. So I'll keep my fingers on the pulse of that. And we'll move along.
Karen asked an interesting question. She says, I wonder what vomiting land looks like. Volcanoes, maybe?
That would be one way to chase them out of the land for sure. So yeah, maybe if you look at it from that perspective, yeah, the quakes are kind of analogous to birth pangs as well. I'll do some thinking on that. Maybe that's a topic we could cover here in the future. Thank you for mentioning that, Karen. This is the time and date website. So we visit here, and if you'll notice, this is actually over top of Jerusalem. So this would be the night sky, as it were, over Jerusalem. And so we see the rising and setting times for all the planets. And tonight is all of them but Uranus is visible. And the night sky, let's see what constellation we got here. Ursa Minor. Yep. So that would be your little bear. You could call it Ukraine if you like. And sorry guys, I know my voice is probably not as nice tonight, but just battling these allergies.
You sound fine to me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's comforting. So again, if this type of thing interests you, you can see the rise times here. This week in particular is pretty auspicious because we're having a procession of planets, a lot of alignments occurring this week. We've also had some solar flares, which we'll talk about in a second. So I find this kind of auspicious. We'll go ahead and talk about that a little more in detail now with this link here. Okay, so this is what we're going to see tonight. May 1st, 2022, morning Northern Hemisphere. So you'll notice that Venus and Jupiter are going to be conjunct, which Venus is already bright on its own, and so is Jupiter. So the two together are going to look like one object in the sky. It's going to be incredibly bright. Now you'll notice Mars and Saturn are also here. Now, what we are basically seeing, we saw Venus conjunct with Saturn, and they called it a Venus and Saturn kissing, right? And now we're seeing Venus and Jupiter conjunct, another kissing type thing. So I'm not saying that this is the wedding. However, it is interesting that when you see the Father and the Son here. Oh, by the way, I'm going to try out this feature here, hitting Control. Can you see that little circle thing? Oh, cool. All right. So when I want to draw attention to something, I'll try to use that. So you can think of Saturn as the Father, Jupiter as the Son, and then Venus as like the bride, right? So it's like the Father giving the daughter to the Son, only in this case it's the son to the bride in a different case, because we know it models after a Galilean wedding, which is a little different, where the groom comes with the father to pick up the bride. So it actually does fit that better. And then we see Mars here as well, which is basically your time of Aries, March, April. All right, so this could qualify, like in Revelations, it talks about the wedding procession. We see that also in the parable of the wise and foolish virgins. There's a wedding train that comes and arrives to pick up the virgins, right, for the wedding. And so you'd be setting up all night with your oil, waiting. But then the virgins that left because they didn't have enough oil for their lamp, they left to go buy oil, but come back only to find the doors shut, right? So this is something to consider, is that the time of the second Exodus is characterized under this motif of a wedding. And so I think it's food for thought to consider that, we could be seeing these things play out in the night sky. Of course, we're not to be dismayed and upset, like it says in the word, the heathen are dismayed by the signs in heaven, things like that. For us, it's a joyous thing, right? Because we know that it signals and heralds our rapture. However, this is an auspicious occasion, and I just wanted to draw some attention to it. And just to save time, I won't read too much about it because it's pretty self-evident in my opinion. But if you were interested in this, I would focus on following Jupiter as it goes, and Saturn, and maybe even Venus. Just pay attention to where these placements are going to be going forward. Now, why could Jupiter be so important? Well, remember that back in 2017, 9/23/2017, we saw the great sign in heaven that was a fulfillment of the night sky. And from Revelation 12:1, the woman clothed in the sun with the moon at her feet, travailing in birth. Well, we had Jupiter within Virgo for 4.5 months. And then in retrograde for another 4.5 months, and then passing through the legs of Virgo on 9/23/2017. So I've been trying to keep an eye on Jupiter ever since then. And then here we see that a few short years later, we're seeing the father give the son to the bride. So food for thought. I would consider the importance of this. Okay, and let's move on.
Did you mute yourself on accident? I don't hear you anymore.
No, I'm sorry. I have to mute myself when I cough.
Oh, okay. Do you muted yourself on purpose?
I just can't get over this allergy stuff. It's wearing me out.
Oh, I know I have it too. Yesterday I was so happy I didn't have to blow my nose once, and yet this morning it was running like crazy. So I understand.
Yeah, I'm just trying not to be rude and cough into people's ears, because imagine some people probably wearing earphones, right? And then there's this that happened. Well, it's happening, I should say. So there was an X1 class flare that may interrupt telecommunications, radio transmissions, and so on and so forth. It seems to be covering most of Europe, a lot of Africa, South America, and even the eastern coast of the United States. It's kind of centered right here over top of the Atlantic Ocean. But anyway, what I find interesting about this is if you kind of see the planetary alignment as like a wedding procession or like an instrument, if you will, a solar flare like this passing through all those lined up spheres, because people say that each of the spheres has a tone, right? There's this concept of music of the spheres. So, for instance, the composers back in the day, they were inspired by the planets, and it was thought that each of them had a certain musical tone associated with it, right? One of the popular ones is Saturn, for instance, has a really strange sounding tone. But even Earth has this. A lot of people refer to it as the Schumann frequency. So anyway, imagine these all being lined up and a solar flare passing among them. I kind of imagine it like strumming a guitar, right? So again, it could add some importance to some of the alignments that we're seeing. Just food for thought. Not saying that it is anything, but you got to remember though that Revelations is kind of depicting an event, and that there will be signs. Of course, those can be interpreted in different ways. So I'm not trying to upset or scare anybody, but I find it interesting personally, so I wanted to share it. But anyway, this is a new website I haven't really used much, but they did seem to have a pretty good graphic here. So, and I think I shared that. Okay. So, why did we name the episode Mayday? Well, if we go to the origin for the word, we'll learn that it's a distress call. It's like we're reading in the Psalms there. And will you read, just to give my voice a little bit of a break so I can drink some water?
I'm just switching screens. So hang on. You want me? How far do you want me to read down?
Oh, just the history here, actually, or maybe these couple little parts.
Okay, I'll read history and Mayday calls. The Mayday procedure word was conceived as a distress call in the early 1920s by Frederick Stanley Mockford, officer in charge of radio at Croydon Airport, England. He had been asked to think of a word that would indicate distress and would easily be understood by all pilots and ground staff in an emergency. Since much of the air traffic at the time was between Croydon and Le Bourget Airport in Paris, he proposed the term Mayday, the phonetic equivalent to the French Mayday, help me, or Mayday, I assume, a short term of Venez Mayday, come and help me. The term is unrelated to the holiday, May Day. Following tests, the new procedure word was introduced for cross-channel flights in February of 1923. The previous distress call had been the Morse code signal SOS, but this was not considered suitable for voice communication, owing to the difficulty of distinguishing the letter S by telephone. In 1927, the International Radio Telegraph Convention of Washington adopted the voice call Mayday as the radio telephone distress call in addition to the SOS radio telegraph Morse code signal. Mayday calls. If a Mayday call cannot be sent because a radio is not available, a variety of other distress signals and calls for help can be used. Additionally, a Mayday call can be sent on behalf of one vessel by another. This is known as a Mayday relay. Civilian aircraft making a Mayday call in the United States airspace are encouraged by the Federal Aviation Administration to use the following format, omitting any portions as necessary for expediency or where they are irrelevant. Capitalization as in the original source. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Name of station addressed. Aircraft call sign and type. Nature of emergency. Weather. Pilot's intentions and requests. Present position and heading. Or if lost, then last known position and heading and time when aircraft was at that position. Altitude or flight level. Fuel remaining in minutes. Number of people on board. Any other useful information. Making a false distress call is a criminal offense in many countries, punishable by a fine, restitution, and possible imprisonment.
Very interesting. And of course, had we not looked into this, we wouldn't even have seen this either. But pan, which makes me think of the word pandemic. And we've kind of looked into that too, where Christ gave his sermon at Caesarea Philippi, which was a popular destination for folks to go and worship Pan. So again, what are we? What's the whole Exodus about? Is like a Mayday of sorts. You know, Father, help us. Father, save us. You know, so I find it very interesting that. That this would have some analogous meaning here. So it's saying French for peine, a breakdown. And very, very interesting. Pan medico, repeated 3 times, declaring a non-life-threatening emergency. Food for thought. So thank you for reading that. I appreciate that.
Of course, anytime.
And then, of course, SOS is an abbreviation for save our souls, right? So we ask the Father in those Tehillim, the Psalms we were just reading, what's the theme we see very often? Save our souls, right? So it is like a distress call. All right, now just to show the contrast here. So this was the distress call, and then there is the pagan holiday that is known as May Day. And yes, it is very much a phallic worship type deal. Here Karen mentioned that. So here are some other things that I think it could mean. So the Christmas tree, in my opinion, is also the maypole. And it's the world tree, or what they call the Axis Mundi. In Norse, you'd see this called Yggdrasil. And I had an epiphany the other day about this. So when folks set up a Christmas tree, what do they a lot of times set at the bottom of it that goes around the tree?
The skirt.
Well, I didn't think about that, but you're right, a skirt. But also a train track, right? A lot of people put trains around the Christmas tree. And what could even be the reason for that, right? So I got to thinking about that, and it made me think of the Ouroboros, or the dragon that's eating its tail. So in Norse mythology, there's also the snake at the base of the tree. So I started to wonder, I thought, well, I bet you that's all the same thing, right? So there's something to consider. We also see this great tree mentioned in Daniel 4. Nebuchadnezzar has the dream of the great tree that's cut down. That's also referenced in Isaiah 14. The tree that deceives all the nations. And it's cut down and banded, right? So this mysterious prophecy that Daniel's given and asked to seal up in the book, I think concerns the great tree. And in Revelations, this book is opened and the revelation occurs. So I think it's all very relevant. And I don't want to give a lot of credit or fame to this, so we're not going to necessarily read through it all. But I do want to mention that there is this particular thing, like the May crowning, because we're dealing with the corona. So I do want to read a couple bits of this. Okay, yeah, maybe that's the part right there we should read. So I'll go ahead and open that one up. And this is the crowning of the Queen of May. So just like when Elijah had to flee from Jezebel, I kind of find it analogous to this, is that the Mystery Babylon is very much this Jezebel type character that'll be persecuting all of God's people. And I think that it may very well be a May Queen thing. There's also the mentioning of the May Queen in a what is it, Led Zeppelin song, Stairway to Heaven. He mentions the May Queen in that song as well. But let's read a little bit about it. So they're saying here that it's the Blessed Virgin Mary, but obviously we know that's not the case. May devotions to the Blessed Virgin Mary refer to special Marian devotions held in the Catholic Church during the month of May, honoring Mary, the Mother of God, as the Queen of May. I did not know that they made her this.
Catholics call her the Queen of Heaven. It's it's just very bad. Very bad.
The Queen of Heaven and the Queen of May. Very interesting. Well, that makes that stuff we were going over earlier with the planets a lot more interesting. I'll have to read into this a little bit more. However, these services may take place inside or outside. A May crowning is a traditional Roman Catholic ritual that occurs in the month of May. We will be talking about a crown tonight with the Corona Borealis. And guess where the Corona Borealis sits in the night sky, Aaron?
In the north?
At the head of the Serpent.
Okay.
So, crowning of the Serpent.
Didn't get that.
Crowning, interesting. It was, I was just, anyway.
I hope somebody had that on their bingo card.
Oh yeah, I forgot about bingo. We should definitely encourage folks to try and make a 5x5 bingo card. The middle space is free. And again, any topics that you think might come up during a stream, put them on a bingo card and you can reuse the card from week to week. And if anybody wins, we'll send you out a gift. But if you create a bingo card, please post it in the Telegram or the Discord channel so that we can have a time, date stamp. And then it's a legit bingo card at that time. All right, so the origins for this are a number of traditions link the month of May to Mary. It even has the same letters except for the R, really. Alfonso in the 13th century wrote in his Cantigas de Santa Maria about the special honoring of Mary during the specific dates in May. Eventually, the entire month was filled with special observances and devotions to Mary. The origin of the conventional May devotion is still relatively unknown. Herbert Thurston identifies the 17th century as earliest instance of the adoption of the custom of consecrating the month of May to the Blessed Virgin by special observances. It is certain that this form of Marian devotion began in Italy around 1739. Witnesses speak of a particular form of Marian devotion in May in the Grazzano near Verona. In 1747, the Archbishop of Genoa recommended the May devotion as a devotion for the home. Specific prayers for them were promulgated in Rome in 1838. According to Frederick Halweck, the May devotion in its present form originated at Rome, no surprise there, where Father Latomia of the Roman College of the Society of Jesus, I've heard of that before. Yeah, that's the Jesuits. To counteract infidelity and immorality among the students, made a vow at the end of the 18th century to devote the month of May to Mary. From Rome, the practice spread to other Jesuit colleges and thence to nearly every Catholic church of the Latin Rite. In Rome, by 1813, May devotions were held in as many as 20 churches. From Italy, May devotions soon spread to France and Belgium. The May devotions, at least as a private devotion, were already known by 1803. The tradition of honoring Mary in a month-long May devotion spread eventually around the Roman Catholic world in the 19th century, together with a month-long devotion to Jesus in June and the Rosary in October. I did not know that they devoted June to Jesus, which is where you'll find Father's Day. So here we see a little bit of the background there, and we note that this originates in Rome, which again is the city that sits upon 7 hills. And so a lot of folks think that the Catholic Church of Rome is a good candidate for the Whore of Babylon. So this does kind of jive with some of that. So more food for thought. And welcome back, Aaron.
Thank you.
And so it just continues here, since somebody brought up the maypole. The best known modern May Day traditions observed both in Europe and North America include dancing around the maypole and crowning of the Queen of May. Fading in popularity since the late 20th century is the tradition of giving of May baskets, small baskets of sweets or flowers, usually left anonymously on neighbors' doorsteps. In the late 20th century, many neo-pagans began reconstructing some of the older pagan festivals and combining them with more recently developed European secular and Catholic traditions, and celebrating May Day as a pagan religious festival. So this right here is the very definition of Hellenism, the mixing of pagan traditions with Christian traditions. So this would be the religious equivalent of becoming lukewarm, is to mix them together. And of course, this is exactly what we were reading about in the Tehillim, is that we're not, in the Torah portion for that matter, that we're not supposed to mix with the nation's ways, and that we're to be a peculiar people, right? So if you mix and you do the egg and the bunny thing and so on and so forth, there would be no way to tell you apart from anybody else. So something to consider about where these things come from.
Yes, and I tried to have that conversation with my parents and did not go well, because they do the same excuse. It's for the kids, to keep the kids entertained, as if there's no other way to entertain our kids but with bunnies and eggs. So yes, my father thinks I'm crazy when it comes to not celebrating Easter and Christmas, especially the way that people do with the trees. And so it's a battle, but I will continue to try. In fact, because such a bad excuse. I will continue to try because I do love my family, and my parents are kind of willing to listen. So maybe one of these days that seed will totally plant.
Yeah, sorry, I had to cough again.
That's all right. We're doing okay over here.
See, they named the lyrics. Yeah, I think it goes. If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now. It's just a sprinkling for the May Queen. So there you go, Callie. So this link here that we're now on is going to be talking about the snare that we were talking about earlier. And as Sean refers to it as the snake bite, which I have to say that's a great name for it, because here this suggests that they are in fact using pythons as a key ingredient in the VAXX. So the Pokemon snake bite.
So in Florida, it's pythons and not cobras, huh?
Yeah, actually so not a poisonous snake. Although the word venom and virus are actually the same thing. It's not, pythons are not poisonous. So let's read this. This was really hard to find, by the way. So I don't think that this is information that they're necessarily wanting to be widely known. But yeah, so let's discuss this a little bit. So I might have to censor myself a little bit here and there because YouTube, does that. So, but you can follow along if you like. A key ingredient to helping vaccinate. That was probably already a bad word.
Yeah, probably. It's
key
hard.
ingredient to helping inoculate more Americans against this certificate of Vax ID lies deep within the Florida Everglades, according to experts. The source? Invasive Burmese pythons. Yes, you read that right. Daryl Thompson, Director of Scientific Initiatives at the Global Research and Discover Group Sciences, says that the species that has caused devastation to Florida's native wildlife and environment carries an oil called squalene. Oh, by the way, I forgot to pull up a link for squalene. So if you could maybe find a suitable link to share, I'd appreciate it. Pardon?
Am I looking up the word squalene? Is that what I'm doing?
Yeah. Just, it could be the wiki page or the NMIB or whatever. Just whatever you find.
Merriam-Webster. It's an acylic hydrocarbon, C30H50, that is widely distributed. That means 30 carbons and 50 hydrogens. That is widely distributed in nature, such as a major component of sebum and in shark liver oils, and is a precursor of sterols, such as cholesterol. That doesn't sound like anything to do with... Well, it's more to do with sea fish and whales.
Yeah, they actually get it from sharks more often. But as the article will discuss, in order to prevent overfishing of the shark, they are sourcing it from these pythons instead, which happen to have it. So, and it was just to meet the demand of this. So that it was specifically done for this. So as we'll be discussing with the Serpent constellation, is literally crowned with Corona Borealis. So let's look into this a little more. So it is an ingredient that is used along with the snake bite to help alert the immune system to start learning and recognizing the virus. So the interesting thing about squalene, quote, is it's used as an adjuvant along with the snake bite. It essentially alerts the immune system to begin to take instructions so that when it's used with a VAXX, in layman's terms, it primes the immune system to begin learning from the VAXX so that it can recognize certificate of vaccination. So when you get your certificate of vaccination, you are getting it to prove that you have the snake bite, right? So it was just such a fitting name to call it that. I really am just amazed at that coincidence. Also, something that comes to my mind is that in the I Pet Goat video, when they are in school, and you have a Obama type and Bush type character in front of the chalkboard, there is a house fire with a shark kind of beside it. So I wondered if maybe that had anything to do with this squalene stuff.
And the lightning bolt next to it, I think, was the lightning bolt.
Yes, splitting the mind, the brain. With the dragon there beside of it too. Okay. Oh yeah, here it goes. Originally, sharks were used as the source, but given the high demand for snakebite, there was a concern for potential overfishing. So it's not even that it was a problem. They're just like, oh, it might be a problem. Let's go for the snakes. That's where wild man Dusty Crumb comes.
He's so wild.
And we have his website up here, so we'll look into that in a second. With scientists looking for a new way to find the ingredient, Crumb directed their attention to the Florida's vast 1.5 million acre wetlands preserve. It was the equivalent to meeting a medicine man in the middle of the Amazon, Thompson said of his first meeting with Crumb, who has appeared on shows like Man-Eating Python and Swamp People. The wild man provided critical observations that led them to discover the behemoth snakes contained squalene. By the way, in the first year alone, they can reach up to 12 feet. It's a hybrid with the native species, the Burmese species hybridized with the local. And I've even heard talk about a new one even that has found its way there. But in the first year, they can reach up to 12 feet long.
A fun fact, when I was a kid, my brother had pythons, and he had a Burmese python that was a female, and she got up to 15 feet. And there's a picture of all 6 of us kids holding her.
Well, that's cool. Wish we could have gotten that picture, but I have something.
Don't have it with me, but I can find it.
If you can find it, please show it. It is just amazing for a global problem that we have that the type of unique partnership existed right here in the Everglades, Thompson said, and the python population is bountiful. Eliminating invasive pythons is already a large undertaking in Florida with the annual Florida Python Challenge, which is where I found this picture of Mr. Crumb that I'll share with you now. I think it's this one. Nope. There it is. So there's Dusty Crumb.
Is that the wild man himself?
That's the wild man himself, barefoot and proud.
He
now
looks
look
wild.
at how he's holding this.
Above his head? Sort of.
Yeah. And the Serpent's constellation is actually split in two. Serpent's caput, which is the head, and Serpent's cauda, which is the tail. And so he's holding it in two parts, right? So you'll see there is a constellation in the night sky called Ophiuchus, which holds the serpent. So this is not a poisonous serpent that he's holding. It's a python. After all, how many poisonous snakes do you know that are this big, right? So look at how closely similar this constellation is to this picture here. Strikingly similar, right? And then, of course, this portion we see right here, Corona Borealis, crowning the serpent. So we'll get into that a little bit more. And I think I shared, yeah. So this is the website where you can go, and they have to capture like largest number of serpents, largest serpent. One guy was even finding nests where the eggs were, and they consider that like bonus points because then they don't even get to prey on the birds and stuff. So they really want to like hit the nests. Of course, it's the full-size snakes that they get the squalene from, because what it is, they skin the snake and then they render the fat, and it's from the fat that they get the snake oil. So yes, if you go to this guy's website, he literally sells snake oil. I am not kidding, folks. It's right here. So, I mean, this is arguably probably more legit than your traditional snake oil salesman. I would assume this is actually probably coming from an actual python, although I would still not want to put it in my body. But anyway, I thought this was just hilarious because it was like the deeper in I went, it was like just pulling apart an onion. I was like, wow, this is really crazy. All right, so I will continue here. And then a year-round team of hunters with the South Florida Water Management District attempting to eradicate the reptile. Kind of reminds me of that Simpsons episode, Whacking Day, when they were trying to run all the serpents out of Springfield. And then also the story of St. Patrick running all the serpents out of Ireland.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So here's a post. Stopping the spread of the invasive species like the Burmese python. They are devastating our state's native wildlife populations, so we're taking action. Our scientists are proposing new rules aimed at reducing the impacts and stopping the spread of high-risk invasive reptilian species. We help inform our efforts by taking a survey or participating in a workshop. So they're even like reaching out to folks here. It makes the potential future use of pythons as a source of squalene a win-win situation. Sometimes good things come out of bad situations, Thompson said. I couldn't say it better myself. Such as when the second Exodus occurs. It is and when they're caught in their own net, as it was saying in the Psalms. It's a sentiment the defender of the Everglades agrees with, saying, these pythons, I knew there was something special in them. I had no idea it would go to this extreme. I guess that's Dusty Crum speaking. According to Crum, tests show that one 10 to 12 foot python contains enough squalene for 3,400 doses of the snake bite. So right there is that's the nugget we were really looking for. So yeah, they get to be this length in the first year of life. So that many dosages, which we know the number far exceeds that. So if you did the math, you could probably figure out how many snakes they've had to wrangle. And while not every python encountered will be quite as large, the sample gives experts a baseline. But until the research is finalized and given a green light, Crum says, work will not stop. We're still out here, boots on the ground, even though he was barefoot in that picture. Working every day, he said, this ain't going to stop anytime soon. We're at war. This is a foreign invader on American soil. I also find it interesting that in the United States, America is known as the land of the plumed serpents. And what do you know? Look what we're having happen now. The crowning of the serpents. That is quite literally a crowned serpent is a plumed serpent. So it's all right there, folks. Like some of those, it's almost too much sometimes. Crum estimates that in the last 3 years, teams in the Everglades have eliminated nearly 6,000 pythons. He's excited about what this latest development could do for both humans and the environment. With the help of scientists like Daryl, this could really help to save a lot of people and heal a lot of people. So that's very exciting, Crumb says. Well, I have to disagree with you, Dusty Crumb.
Wow, Dusty Wildman Crumb.
Yeah. And like I said, his website, there's really not a whole lot to it other than just these products that he proudly sells. So, you know, I have to at least hand it to him. They are making good use of all of these snakes. He sells everything from, there's another picture of him in the Ophiuchus style, handling a serpent. But he's got everything from boots to belts to gunslings to oil. I mean, it's kind of incredible how much there's the boots on sale now. So
Boots,
the boots
on the ground.
Yeah, jinx. Thank you. Oh, that was a good one, Aaron. So again, here he is, and this is so strikingly similar to what is commonly referred to as the 13th zodiac, Ophiuchus. I think there's even an emoji for it. Maybe, maybe not. There we go. Yeah. So it's a U with a squiggly through it. So the U would represent you handling the serpent, right? Overcoming the serpent. So if we make it through this and we overcome the serpent, right? Are we not crowned, as it says in Revelation? So I must say, the themes in this are striking. And of course, you'll notice here the bull, which represents decrees. And is this not part of decrees, mandates, bulls? I have a suspicion the church will be getting involved here soon, because we do hear the Pope making his own comments every now and then, promoting it. So we got the perfect storm brewing, I think, with this. We got the Abraham Accords that were just, a year or two ago when Trump was in office. In the midst of all this pandemic, the Mayday, snake bite, decrees. The themes just keep overlapping. I don't think this is Hercules, but some people also say that it's sometimes is Hercules, which there is a story of Hercules when he was a baby being in his crib, and I think Hera sends 2 pythons after him to kill him, and he chokes the pythons in his crib. So there's also that. So it could be him, I guess, in this sense. But anyway, the name that you often see used is Ophiuchus, which I guess translates to serpent bearer. So anyway, pretty cool, huh? So you also notice that the staff of Shippolis, which I'm not even sure if that'll populate. I don't know how to get that one. There's an emoji that shows like a rod with a worm or a snake going around it. It's not the caduceus. That's when you have 2 snakes going around a pole. The staff of Asclepius is the one you see on the back of ambulances. And actually, never mind, I don't have the link up now. But anyway, if you pull up the staff of Asclepius wiki page, you'll see that it's used a lot of times on the symbol for ambulances, which is on a blue asterisk. So an asterisk like that.
How would you even spell that? Staff of what?
I think it's this. Or close to it. That would be a really high stakes spelling bee competition.
Kind of looks like the caduceus or whatever, right? Almost the same thing.
Yes, a lot like it, but it's not actually the same. So the caduceus more or less represents the like the ball at the top of the staff would be like the pineal gland. The twin serpents represent like the kundalini, or so on and so forth. This, by contrast, is a little bit different. I think that the staff of Shupulus more directly refers to this, the pole being this man, the worm being this serpent, but also the maypole being this man, the ribbons being the serpent, the Christmas tree, the man being the tree, the garland or the train track being the serpent. So again, we see these things over and over and over again. Pretty interesting. Oh, did you find a link? You can screen share if you like to show it. But
I just showed a picture of it, of what I pulled up. I already showed it.
Yeah, and something else about that staff is the reason it kind of got the association with healing was that what would happen with a lot of folks is you would have an infection of a worm or a parasite. And so what they would do is they would take the stick and get the worm wound around the stick, and they would just start spinning the stick and winding the worm up around the stick. So then to advertise for your services, because you got to remember back in the day, a lot of folks were illiterate, but symbolism is something that people can learn to recognize even if they don't know how to read. So to advertise your services as a serpent handler, in a sense, or to conquer the worm, you would put this sign outside of your house or your establishment, and it would advertise your services to say, if you are a victim of this worm, come to me and I'll rid you of the worm, right? So that's where the ambulance gets its association with that. And it's also the staff of Shupulus, which again, he is said to have wielded the serpent and cut it in two and used it to like resurrect people, this, that, and the other. So, but anyway, it all comes back to this serpent's constellation and this man overcoming the serpent. So you could even think of the serpent itself as the complete zodiac, like all 12 signs, and then this man overcoming it, or something like that, or this being the train tracks. There's a lot of different ways to kind of interpret that. But anyway, old Dusty Crumb really exemplifies that, if you ask me.
You need to start calling him Dusty Wildman Crumb.
Yeah, sorry. I don't want to. Yeah. So anyway, if you guys find out anything else about that, please share it in the Discord or the Telegram. Would really like to hear your thoughts.
I did find the Wikipedia rod of, it's spelled Asclepius, like Asclepius, maybe?
Yeah, I always struggle with the spelling, but thank you for finding it. Does it show the blue asterisk?
Yeah, I did. I pulled up the image so people could see it. Yep.
Okay, so what I find interesting about that is that asterisk is also the base word for asterisk is aster means star. So an asterism, for instance, would be a constellation. So the serpent on the pole on the asterisk literally points to what we were just looking at. So I just find that really fascinating. So we'll take a closer look now at the Serpent's constellation itself. So this would be, remember, it's in two parts. We have the Serpent's cauda being the tail, just like your caudal being your lower part of your trunk, and then the serpent's caput being the head of the serpent, and that would be the crowned portion. So remember, when we were talking about Genesis 49, Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, except it says here an adder in the path, not a python. An adder in the path that biteth the horse's heels, so that the rider shall fall backward. And then again in the Song of Moses here in Exodus 15. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I actually shared these or not. The Song of Moses is a song of deliverance. So if we use the context here with Genesis 49, it could be argued that it's deliverance from the serpent. And of course, he also affixed the serpent to the pole in the wilderness. And this is when they were being plagued by the flying serpents in the desert. And they were being bitten. And he was instructed by Jehovah to erect a pole and fix a serpent on it, and then raise it up, and then whoever gazed upon it would be granted salvation. In other words, they'd be cured of their death sentence that they got from the serpent bite, right? Which this really reminds me of Revelation 9, when the locusts plague all those that have the mark of the beast. It's kind of reminiscent of that. And then also in the book of John, I think it is, Christ refers to how he, the Son of Man, would need to be raised up like the serpent in the wilderness for the salvation of mankind. So, you know, those who are covered in the blood of the Lamb under the name of salvation are once again being given salvation from the serpent, just like they were in the time of the first Exodus. So personally, I think it lines up really well. So I wanted to share that. And I forgot to maybe drop this link. And of course, since we're on the subject still, and Dan is often associated with the scales of justice and the serpent. They're also associated with horses. I did not know that the last time we covered this topic, but yes, apparently they are also associated with horses, and that's what we see mentioned here, is that the horse and the rider and the serpent are themes that we see show up here in Genesis 49 and Exodus 15. So more food for thought. Okay, but without further delay, let's cover more about the serpents. I feel like we're doing pretty good on time, but can you?
Yeah, it's
verify?
7:40, so we're an hour and 40 minutes in.
All right, cool. Serpents, ancient Greek, Romanized as Ophis. So again, remember Ophiuchus. So serpent bearer is really just a title, not so much the name of the guy holding the serpent, but the act of holding the serpent. It is a constellation in the northern celestial hemisphere, so you were correct. It is the north. One of the 48 constellations listed by the second century astronomer Ptolemy, it remains one of the 88 modern constellations designed by the International Astronomical Union. It is unique among the modern constellations in being split into two non-contiguous parts.
Twins.
Serpent. Yes. Oh, yes. Very interesting. Serpens caput, the head, to the west, and Serpens cauda, the tail, to the east. Between these two halves lies the constellation Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, which, now that I have a link to share, I'll drop that down here for you folks. Okay. And the serpent bearing figurative representations, the body of the serpent is represented as passing behind Ophiuchus between Mu Serpentis and Serpens caput, rather, and Nu Serpentins and Serpens cauda. Also, if you happen to know anything about astronomy or astrology, there is something called Rahu and Ketu. This is also a dragon or serpent that was split in two, and so they're referred to as the north and south nodes. It is thought by some that that's even what causes eclipses to form, which we have an eclipse today, a solar eclipse. So Rahu and Ketu would also be analogous to your Serpent's kaput and Serpent's kata. The brightest star in Serpens is the red giant Alpha Serpentis, or Unakahalai, in Serpent's kaput, with apparent magnitude is 2.63. Also located in Serpent's kaput are the naked eye globular cluster Messier 5 and the naked eye variables R Serpentins and Tau Serpentins. Notable extragalactic objects including Sephirt's Sextet, one of the densest galaxy clusters known, and the prototypical ultraluminous infrared galaxy, and Hoag's object, the most famous of very rare galaxies known as ring galaxies. Part of the Milky Way's galactic plane passes through Serpent's kata, the tail, which is therefore rich in galactic deep sky objects, such as the Eagle Nebula, and its associated star cluster Messier 16. The nebula measures 70 light years by 50 light years and contains the pillars of creation. I'm glad that I read this, because I read about that the other day and forgot to include it in tonight's show. So if you want to read more about that, there's a link for the pillars of creation, which is really just nebulas and such, but I still find it odd that they would name it that. So there might be some gravy there. 3 dust clouds that became famous for the image taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. Other striking objects include the Red Square Nebula, one of the few objects in astronomy to take on the square shape, and Westerhout 40, a massive nearby star-forming region consisting of a molecular cloud. Now here's the more interesting thing I probably should have read, because it's not as technical. Some of those words are easy to trip on. In Greek mythology, Serpens represents a snake held by a healer, Aeschylus. There we go. Represented in the sky by the constellation Ophiuchus. Oh, okay, so the man here in the middle is not Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is the act of wielding the serpent. It is indeed Aeschylus. This is that guy. Aeschylus once killed a snake, but the animal was subsequently resurrected after a second snake placed a revival herb on it before its death. As snakes shed their skin every year, they were known as a symbol of rebirth in ancient Greek society, and legend says Aeschylus would revive dead humans using the same technique he witnessed. Although this is likely the logic for Serpens' presence with Ophiuchus, the true reason is still not fully known. Sometimes Serpens was depicted as coiling around Ophiuchus, but the majority of atlases show Serpens passing either behind Ophiuchus's body or between the legs.
I'm so confused. His name is Ophiuchus, or it is not? His name is Asclepius, which is what? Isn't that
the man is Aeschylus, but the act of wielding the serpent is this word Ophiuchus. Just means serpent bearer. So Aeschylus is Ophiuchus.
Is Aeschylus the one you're saying that looks like Asclepius to me?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure how to.
Well, I'm just making sure, because that's the same thing as the symbol on the ambulance.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. The rod on the ambulance symbol would be Aeschylus himself wielding the serpent. Okay. In some ancient atlases, the constellations Serpens and Ophiuchus were depicted as 2 separate constellations, although more often they were shown to be a single constellation. One notable figure to depict Serpens separately was Johann Bayer. Thus, Serpent stars are cataloged with separate Bayer designations from those of Ophiuchus. When Eugene Delaporte established modern constellation boundaries in the 1920s, he elected to depict the 2 separately. However, this posed the problem of how to disentangle the 2 constellations. When Delaporte decided to split Serpens into 2 areas, the head and the tail, separated by the continuous Ophiuchus, these 2 areas became known as Serpens caput and Serpens cauda. Caput being Latin for the head, and cauda, Latin for the word tail. In Chinese astronomy, most of these stars of serpents represented part of a wall surrounding a marketplace, known as a Tianxi, which was in Ophiuchus and part of Hercules. Okay, so Hercules is very close then. Serpents also contains a few Chinese constellations. 2 stars in the tail represent part of Shilao, the tower with the market office. Another star in the tail represents Lisai, jewel shops. 1 star in the head, Mu Serpentis, marked Tian Ru, the crown prince's wet nurse, or sometimes rain. There were 2 serpent constellations in Babylonian astronomy known as Mushhusu and Basmu, again like Rahu and Ketu. It appears that Mushhusu was depicted as a hybrid of a dragon, a lion, and a bird, and loosely corresponded to, there it is,
Hydra.
So kind of interesting. Basmu was a horned serpent and roughly corresponds to the constellation of Eudoxus of Cnidus. That's a rough one. So it, wow, I must say that's really interesting. The topics of Hydra and hybrid, which Hydra and hybrid, that's a very close word actually. So really we just got RA and ID being the difference there. Very interesting.
And remember Carrie Mayday, which Karen called her earlier, Carrie Mayday was telling everybody that the Hydra was in the snake bite.
Well, nothing would really surprise me anymore. But anyway, here again, this word asterism refers to stars. So, just like the asterisk. So you would have the rod of Asclepius superimposed upon the asterisk. So the star. And I don't want to run out of time here, so I'm going to move on to the Corona Borealis, because a lot of this other stuff's just technical stuff I'm just going to trip over anyway. So let's go ahead, and I think, I don't think I shared this one. So, and I'll do my best to put the stuff in the show notes on the Discord server. Most of this is already in the Telegram though, and actually it might be in the Discord too, but go ahead and drop the link for this Corona Borealis, and I think we'll be finishing with pretty good time. So this should be our last link to cover. All right, so Corona Borealis. Would you like to read some of this?
Boy, would I?
Well, just to give my voice a little bit of a rest, because
I
coughing.
understand. All right, Corona Borealis is a small constellation in the northern celestial hemisphere. It is one of 48 constellations listed by the 2nd century astronomer Ptolemy, I think I said it right, and remains one of the 88 modern constellations. Its brightest stars form a semicircular arc. Its Latin name, inspired by its shape, means northern crown. In classical mythology, Corona Borealis generally represented the crown given to the god Dionysus to the Cretan princess Ariadne and set by her in the heavens. Other cultures liken the pattern to a circle of elders, an eagle's nest, a bear's den, or even a smoke hole. Ptolemy also listed a southern counterpart, Corona Australis, with a similar pattern. The brightest star is the magnitude 2.2 Alpha Coronae Borealis. The yellow supergiant R Coronae Borealis is the prototype of a rare class of giant stars, the R Coronae Borealis variables, that are extremely hydrogen deficient, as if they know any of this, unless some demon told them, and thought to result from the merger of 2 white dwarfs, T Coronae Borealis, also known as the Blaze Star, is another unusual type of variable star known as a recurrent nova. Normally of magnitude 10, it last flared up to magnitude 2 in 1946. AD,
We don't have to read the rest
okay.
of that.
All right.
Yeah, it seems kind of technical. I was kind of hoping maybe we could get to some history, but I don't think it's there, actually. Yeah, well, here we go. Okay, cool. In Greek mythology, Corona Borealis was linked to the legend of Theseus and the Minotaur. It was generally considered to represent a crown given by Dionysus to Ariadne, the daughter of the Minos of Crete, after she had been abandoned by the Athenian prince Theseus. When she wore the crown at her marriage to Dionysus, he placed it in the heavens to commemorate their wedding. So again, this crown is very much related to a wedding. Interesting. An alternate version has the besotted Dionysus give the crown to Ariadne, who in turn gives it to Theseus after he arrives in Crete to kill the Minotaur, as if a crown was given to a victor, right? Those who overcome. What I'd like to know is this crown of laurels or like a crown of leaves, or is this more like a metal crown? Because there are two different types. So it'd be interesting to go back and look at the actual the word, because here we see that it's a metal crown depicted here, but I've seen it also crown of leaves. Okay, and an alternate version has the besotted Dionysus give the crown to that the Cretans have demanded tribute from Athenians to feed, so they had to feed the Minotaur in the labyrinth. The hero uses the crown's light. Well, look at that. The hero uses the crown's light to escape the labyrinth after disposing the creature. So I guess it emits some type of light. And Dionysus later sets it in the heavens. The Latin author Hygienus linked it to a crown or wreath. Okay, here we go. Worn by Bacchus, Dionysus, to disguise his appearance when first approaching Mount Olympus and revealing himself to the gods, having been previously hidden as yet another child of Jupiter's trysts with a mortal, in this case, Semele. Corona Borealis was one of 48 constellations mentioned in the Almagest of the classical astronomer Ptolemy. So kind of some interesting themes here. A crown that emits light makes me think of Peniel. Food for thought once more. But there's a lot to go through there. Oh man, hold on, my work phone's ringing. Hope it's not a client.
That's a late call.
So I'll have to call them back in a second when we're finished.
A late call.
Yeah. But at least
at
we're
11 o'clock there?
10.
Oh, yeah, 10.
So sorry about that. I didn't know that they were trying to get a hold of me. Anyway, so this is kind of all we had for tonight. So if you enjoyed this, please let us know in the comments. And if you have anything to offer in terms of research or any biblical type stuff, just please, again, share it in the comments, in the Discord or the Telegram, and so that we can all kind of grow together with this understanding of, the times we're in. So thank you so much for joining us. Shabbat Shalom, and I hope that you guys overcome the serpent, and that one day we join each other in the promised land. Would you like to close us out in prayer, please?
Yes, I would be happy to.
I forgot to have you do it initially.
Yeah. So, Father, thank you for all the work that Joshua does. Thank you for people that come here. We pray for everyone's minds to be open to your wisdom and your truth, and for us to grow in discernment from your truth. As our salvation comes from your Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, we are so grateful for that salvation. Let us remember it as we are now just ending the Passover, and as we move into the next feast days. Let us drop the traditions of man and celebrate the holy days together, learning together, and not coming here with the belief that we have it all figured out and that we know everything, but being willing to continue to grow in your truth and your wisdom. And we thank you that you bring it through Joshua, and I pray that I could be a conduit for that. And we pray for people we pray and just love people who come and listen and get something from this. And all glory and honor to the Most High. Thank you, Abba Father. Amen.
Amen. Notice a lot of folks in the chat tonight. Some new names, Reverence. Thank you again, Daniel, for being here. John Sparks, Callie Karen, Mara Jean Roman, Jackie, Mark. Thank you all for being here. It's really nice to have you guys join us, and we'll do our best to be with you again next weekend, although we're not sure if it'll be a Friday or Saturday, but typically once a week on the Sabbath. So until then, if you want to stay in contact with us, help us with any kind of research or insights or Bible study, please join the Telegram or the Discord, and together the body of Christ can learn more. And until that day of perfection comes, when prophecy will be complete. Until then, we all prophesy in part. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for all the work you do. Peace.
Behold the man. Behold the man.
You either get right or get left. Ain't going nowhere, but you're taking many steps. Treadmill, homie, you just wasting your breath. But I know a breath breather. Inhale, exhale, life will feed ya. And what manner of man is this to feed a whole crowd with 5 loaves and a couple of fish? He's my daddy, my Abba, my father, my Jehovah Jireh. Talk to him, and he's more than this, more than whips, chicks in a bottle of Chris. So catch up to the realest. It's funny how the truth hurts and they scared to feel it. Things about to change cause Young Tef in the building. Heavenly sent, I'm a vessel that's willing. New age penicillin, bring life to the living.
Behold the man.
He paid the price, he gave his life for your sins and transgressions.
Behold the man.
He bled and died for you and I, and on the 3rd day he came alive.
Behold the man.
He paid the price, he gave his life for your sins and
Behold the
transgressions.
man.
He bled and died for you and I, and on the 3rd day he came alive.
What has become of this world and what has happened to me? Sound to sin for temptation for the pleasure it brings. Wake up, yo, cause time is just slipping away. Rearrange your position and dodge this flame. Now it's my time to take responsibility, to take that blame. Cause my head's messed up and now I'm feeling the pain. I pray to God to take this curse of my soul. I see the devil straight burning, yearning out of control. One less for him that makes one closer to thee. Our Lord Jesus Christ saving souls indeed. He's got the love to overpower even me. So let's pray for better days and he will bring. But my mind's been up in smoke, I said straight clouded, not comprehending the Almighty, but I be shouting. Now hearing the word I spoke, it was hypocritical, but it's 208 and it's a subliminal message.
Behold the man.
He paid the price, he gave his life for your sins and
Behold the
transgressions.
man.
He bled and died for you and I, and on the 3rd day he came alive.
Behold the man.
He paid the price, he gave his life for your sins and
Behold the
transgressions.
man.
He bled and died for you and I, and on the 3rd day he came alive.
In the name of Christ Jesus, we have been called to proclaim His message of forgiveness. Maybe you never even heard this, but He is calling you now cause He wants you as a witness. You have been born to believe. It's like an instinct inherent, ingrained in your conscience. He is our Father and Savior, and so we sing and praise and exalt our Creator. Follow the truth and believe. We are redeemed by the price that He paid on the tree. Our penalty intervened. By His grace we are saved for eternity. A sacrifice for
Behold
our
the man.
peoples. It's a gift that He gave us, a gift from the
Behold
sequel.
the man.
Read the word and consume it. Come on and feed and indulge on the fruit of the Spirit.